What's up, restaurant friends? If you are interested in starting to work with local influencers to come in and promote your restaurant, or if you are a local influencer and you're wanting to start going out and promoting and start collaborating with brands, you're in the right place today because I am here with Emily Steele from Hummingbirds. It is a super cool app where she is, well, not an app. She is working with brands and influencers to help tell their story. So, Emily, we're going to get right to it.
Let's do it.
What are the biggest challenges that you see local brands are facing today? And how is Hummingbirds helping them?
I think, the biggest, beyond like financing a company, which is already like the first hurdle in business ownership, it's like, okay, how do I get the word out? How do people know who I am? How do they pick me? How do I become top of mind and tip of tongue? Like, how do I stand out, differentiate myself? And then build that kind of following and loyalty, right? Because you got to hit the first tier of like awareness and then get those sticky people who come back again and again. So I think about like the challenges, it's really cutting through the noise and figuring out how to do that where your customers are actually discovering and making decisions. So it's kind of a broad thing, but I think that's what's happening in the world.
Yeah. So why is it important influencers? I mean, for years, restaurants have been putting money into TV and radio and billboards, as we all know, print.
Yeah.
Why influencers?
Yeah, I think, I share a little bit of the story. Hummingbirds, this concept really hit me like a ton of bricks. In 2018, I was reading like a Gary Vaynerchuk book about personal branding. I think his book was crushing it. And it was very much like the rise of kind of the influencer, the personal brand persona, someone who's like really showing up as the business owner, the expert in a field. That was really, really hot. And influencer marketing was really starting to come to the surface. But a lot of what became really clear to me in 2018, I was running a local marketing agency. I was creating a lot of content just for fun. I was like, influencers are not going to drive local behavior because influencers aren't incentivized to build a localized audience. Influencers are incentivized to build more of like a national or global audience focusing on like fashion or food or fitness or whatever kind of niche there is. And so when I think about influencers, it has like the creator economy has just absolutely exploded. Influencers, creators being like somewhat synonymous in my mind for this conversation. I think in 2027, it's going to be a $500 billion industry. Like the conversation is no longer, are you working with influencers? The conversation is, how much are you budgeting for that? And so I think the reason why creators, influencers work is because we look to the people we know, like, and trust or aspire to be like to get information about what we should do with our time. And this is like word of mouth marketing is like the oldest form of marketing, right? Like before TV, print, radio were even a thing, we were going to the people we trusted. And so when I think about the lay of the land of what's available in terms of local advertising, you're totally right, right? It's the traditional channels. And then there's the digital channels like, Meta ads and your Google and your Yelp ads. And those are all fine. They tend to be more noisy and interruptive in nature, but like we see them, right? A lot of times we ignore them. I think what's just fascinating to me is just looking at the buying power of consumers today and where that buying power is shifting to. If you think about millennials that have the majority of the buying power, and you think women make 85% of purchasing decisions for themselves or their families, that kind of puts like the millennial woman as the most powerful consumer right now. And where is that person making decisions? Like, I guarantee you she's not driving by a billboard and texting her friends while driving, would not be safe, and saying, we all need to go to a restaurant here. She's on Instagram or TikTok, like seeing what creators she's following locally and driving so much of her decision making right there. And so to me, it's not like, oh, influencers are the hot new thing today. Like the creator economy is going to live and exist for years and years to come. And I think doing it at the local level is the thing that's going to benefit businesses like really, really impactfully beyond the other channels available.
Very cool. So tell us about Hummingbirds. How does it work? How does it work? Tell us.
How does it work? Okay. Yeah. So Hummingbirds is, I would say, like kind of a two-sided network. You think of like the Airbnbs of the world, right? The hosts and the guests. Like we've got brands that are paying for the platform to then create campaigns that are like, hey, we want you to visit our restaurant. We're going to give you a $50 or $100 perk to come experience like our new menu for the fall. And we would love for you to create a reel that kind of showcases what our restaurant looks like, talk about the food you got, like the cocktail you're enjoying, and then share that to your local friends and followers. So they're creating campaigns in the platform, and we call them hummingbirds, like our local creators are expressing interest in campaigns and ultimately selected by the brands to then go do the campaign. And we have all the automations that are like, hey, your campaign's coming up. Hey, this is how you get your perk. So we built the software to essentially just automate as much as possible. So brands didn't have to send one-off DMs or try to figure out how to communicate with 10, 20, 30, some of our brands, like hundreds of creators at the same time. We just streamline and consolidate that. So brands come to us to really like get access to a really easy, efficient way of reaching local creators to drive the behavior they really need. And so we do that at this point, as of recording this, in 20 cities and beyond, but we're a venture-backed company. So we are scaling rapidly across the country and really trying to help brands tap into real people to drive local behavior and not necessarily your influencer persona. I'm happy to break that down too.
Yeah, please do. I've used micro influencer, but you introduced me to nano influencer. Tell me about that.
So for anyone listening that's like influencer, like, is it Kim Kardashian and then like another influencer? I think the last time I checked for Instagram specifically, there are 5 tiers of influencers. So like that's already overwhelming. But you have like your mega celebrities, your influencers like Oprah, right? Like big influencers. But then you kind of go to like a mid-tier, micro, and then nano. And then how I even think about hummingbirds is local. So a micro influencer is really, when you think Instagram specifically, someone who's got like 10,000 plus followers. And oftentimes there's someone who, you have like a decent connection with your followers to be able to build that type of following, but you likely aren't going to get 20,000 followers from your city unless you really truly are creating exceptional city-based content regularly. But the majority of people are like, if I'm going to be a micro influencer, I'm just going to go all in on fashion and fitness, have my affiliate links, like drive people to these websites like a Lululemon or Peloton or whatever it is that would have an affiliate to drive sales that way. So that would be more of your micro, 10,000 to 50,000 followers. And then you have kind of nano, someone with like, let's go with 3,000 to 10,000 followers. And typically those people are aspiring to be micro influencers. So they're like on the path. But oftentimes they're just like, they're everyday creators who don't necessarily need to or want to monetize, but if they're making a little extra money here and there, like it's a great little side gig for them. And then you kind of think like nano and then local influencers. Like I've always identified, this is why Hummingbirds kind of spun up. I definitely am like your local influencer persona. I've got a few thousand followers on Instagram. Most of them are people I've met in and around the Des Moines, Iowa community. I don't like sit here and say I'm a local influencer, but I know that the content I create drives local impact, which is why like the whole company started. Because I'm like, how do we get more brands access to people like me who can drive behavior for them? So those are kind of the tiers. And what I've seen brands go wrong over and over again, small businesses specifically, let's talk about restaurant, for example, is you see someone in your city, let's go Kansas City, and you're like, oh my gosh, here's an influencer in Kansas City with 40,000 followers. And you're like, oh my gosh, that's so exciting. But are those followers comprised of Kansas City people, or are those followers comprised of, followers who follow them because they create a lot of dog-friendly content? And so people are like, oh my gosh, these people are in my city, but that doesn't mean their influence is there. And so then you're disappointed with results because you're like, that didn't really drive behavior because the followers aren't local. So Hummingbirds, like when we think about what we do is we bring together people who have, 500 to 5,000 followers, but they primarily identify as being kind of a local creator. The things on their Instagram feed are like truly the cocktail bars they're visiting, the music festival they went to an hour away, their travel they're doing with their kids to like the state parks. And so that's really the persona that we're going after because those people can drive local behavior unlike any other tier of influencer. So was that helpful?
Absolutely. And, I will say I had a conversation with someone the other day and I asked them, how do you discover new places you want to go? She pulled out her phone and she had like in her notes app, she had probably 50 places that
Yeah.
she wanted to visit. And I was like,
Yep.
how did you find these? And she was like, I see them on Instagram. I
Mhm.
see influencers and stuff. And so you're exactly right. That is
Yeah.
exactly how
Yeah.
people are discovering. And I,
Yeah.
especially millennials, Gen Z,
Mhm.
I think that's how people are discovering.
For
So
sure. Yep.
yeah, absolutely. And I love your thing about the followers being local, because
Mhm.
you could have 20,000 followers that live all over the country,
Yeah.
but they're never going to come to that restaurant, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Probably. So,
Yeah. Yeah, and for a restaurant to have meaningful impact, you invite 10 local creators who then influence 10 of their friends. That's 100 people who are introduced to your restaurant and coming in. That would be very meaningful for
yeah,
restaurants, like for your typical restaurant or small business. So you don't even have to think of like, who's this famous, like local influencer? It's like, how do you get people with like solid networks in your city coming in, talking about you? Like, it doesn't even have to be through a platform. Just identify those people who have a voice that's trusted and be a good partner with them.
absolutely. So let's you talked about it's kind of dual marketplace.
Yeah.
Let's start with the brands. And I'm saying
Yeah.
restaurants, but it could be any
Yeah.
type spas, different types of
Mhm.
places like that. What's it like for them to work with hummingbirds?
So essentially, yeah, we have a mix of different types of customers. So think performing arts organizations that need to get people to a Moulin Rouge show. We've got restaurants that need to share released menus or just drum up new business, get top of mind for local residents. And then we have people like trying to get appointments booked for like a med spa for Botox injections, whatever it is. So
Yeah.
we definitely have a mix of customers, but at the end of the day, all of them need to drive local behavior. They might have a different metric that they're looking at, right? But they're looking for channels to drive awareness and sales. And so when they come to us, we hop on a call to just discover like what's going to be impactful. What do you really want these creators and influencers to do? And if it's always kind of what I would say like bottom of funnel metrics, like you expect, someone to share a piece of content and then like 10 people immediately book an appointment, you're
Mhm.
not really thinking about how consumers are actually making decisions today. I mean,
Mhm.
Court, think about the things you see or hear about, like a new restaurant, and you're like, cool, it's in my mind, but you're not going to go there tomorrow, right? Like, that's just, you think about, oh, maybe it's a date night opportunity or it's like something I would do for a friend's birthday in 6 months. But just because someone posts something doesn't mean people are going to take immediate action. But I think what's really powerful is something that a friend recommends, we tend to remember more than like you can't go back and look at a TV commercial and be like, call the be like, what was that thing you shared at 4 p.m.? I don't remember, but you can go back to a friend and be like, what was that restaurant you were telling me about? So I love like people powered content because you remember. So the brand that comes to us, they, get access to our platform. We really help them set up their first campaign. If it's new to them to work with creators, we really want them to think about it in a way that is really exciting for creators to opt into. The campaign goes live, people opt in, they get selected, and then like out they go, creating content, tagging your brand, sharing it on socials, and all of that content then pulls back into our software, as well as analytics that we have as well for the brand to really see like what was the reach, what was the impressions and the engagement, how do I understand it from that perspective, from a metrics, but also then see all the user generated content that like went out to the world to build that trust and social proof in your local network.
Yeah, love it. So, okay, now Hummingbird,
Yeah,
the micro influencer,
yeah, yeah,
they want to come to you and they're like, okay, I want to start collaborating.
yeah.
And I don't know if I told you, I signed up and I did my
Yeah,
first campaign.
you did.
And so
I love
it was
it.
super
Oh,
easy,
cool, cool.
really cool. And so, yeah, talk through that. What's that like?
Yeah, so I mean, you could do it too, right? So essentially, you can sign up if you identify as like being a local creator, loving discovering new things, want to share it on social. You're open to like kind of following a campaign brief, that would be exciting to you, or like sign up.
Mhm.
So we look for people who are genuinely like excited about talking about what they're doing in their own city or their own backyard, if you will. So you sign up for free. You integrate with Instagram, so you just connect it through the platform, and then you're able to see all of the open campaigns available in your own location. So you would see it, of course, in Kansas City. Someone in Cincinnati would see that campaigns available to them, and I would say it's a mix of different types of brands. We've had a lot of really strong interest from the CPG space. And there, of course, like Kansas City probably has its own like very specific brands that started in Kansas City, but are growing to other grocery stores or other retailers. And those brands need to move product off shelves at Hy-Vee or Fresh Time or Whole Foods. And so they're like, how do we get local people walking into Whole Foods and like understanding where a product is, trying it and sharing it? So we've got a mix of some of those things. And some people are like, amazing. I already go to Whole Foods all the time. I'll pick up this peanut butter. I love peanut butter. I'll try it and share it.
Yep.
And then we've got really or truly like local, more like they're like the heartbeat of your city. They're the attractions. They're like the fun things. Like I think we've done something like Zip Casey's. They're doing like really cool zip lining experiences. So it's some of that, like a good mix of things to do and discover. But yeah, sign up. It's free. It's like we try to make it a really fun, meaningful experience. And that's the bird side of the house.
Love it. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like Indeed for collaborators, right? Go on and find jobs and, you know, you can post jobs. I mean, it was super slick. Very cool platform.
Love it. Love that. Thanks.
Yeah. Very cool. So let me ask, in 5 years, what are your hopes for both Hummingbirds and also just the influencer, I guess, sphere?
Yeah. I mean, we're in the creator economy. It's here. Like the questions, like I said, is not like, are you working with creators? It's like, what's your budget? Where are you moving and allocating budget from to do this? And so, you know, I'm really excited that we're playing in this space and that people are really receptive to the local nano. I mean, early days of bringing this product and this idea to Des Moines, it was like so overwhelming to people. They're like, how does this work? Why would I do this? Like, that's just like completely flipped on its head now. People are like, no, we want this. And, you know, brands are really leaning more into authenticity and like the real kind of persona versus like a very like beautiful human who has a perfect curated Instagram feed. It's like, no, let's find our actual customers who would use this and talk about this versus like someone that we're going to pay $10, $20, $50,000 to reach their audience with a perfect post, you know? And so my hope in the next 5 years is that the creator economy is really, really strong, but it's segmented really appropriately for what brands need to do. So there are some brands that would look at influencers as a performance marketing channel because they need to do bottom of funnel conversions, which is very good for the e-commerce, you know, space and people who can truly share a link and drive sales like in the moment because there's a 20% off promo code tomorrow, you know? But I also see like there is a really, really sweet spot for local creators. And we plan to completely, you know, dominate that space and we're doing that. And we want to, you know, in my mind, we want to make it really fun and meaningful for the creators at the end of the day. Like I would love for everyone who joins to be like, cool, like I tried something new. I met a new friend. Like I never knew about this. And so for us, it's part discovery from our platform and part like just creating a really robust community of creators who love experiencing brands in their own backyard. But I love the creator economy. I just think people as the distribution channel is really exciting and allows you to be really creative. It allows you to get new customers because a creator can be a customer. You know, a billboard can't be a customer. It's always kind of my little like joke, right? Like someone who does a campaign with you can actually become like a lifelong referral or customer. There's no other ad platform that can become a customer, but a creator can. So I'm a little biased, obviously, but I just get so excited just thinking about, you know, how can cities thrive when local people are actually amplifying the things to do? Because, I mean, do you remember the days where you like would open a newspaper and figure out the events you're going to go to that month or that year? Or you would turn on the TV and be like, oh, this is coming to our city next weekend. Those days are just gone in terms of like journalism, right? Like local newspapers don't exist in the same way and TV just is completely different. So it's like the way consumers make decisions is just rapidly changing and we can meet them where they are with the creator approach to drive discovery and decisions.
Yeah. What would you say to a creator that's like, I don't have any professional like video experience. Who am I to like do this? I don't want to show my face. Like, do you hear that? Like, what would you say to them?
I'd say you got to do some self-worth work as a human. Like, you know, who are you? Like your voice deserves to be heard. You know, like I tend to go down like a worthiness conversation with people who are like, well, I don't want to show my face. Like I need to lose some weight before I do that. Whatever it is, like you have a unique perspective. All of us do. Like maybe you don't know how to make videos today, but practice. Like no one cares at the end of the day. Like if your reel was mediocre, like keep going for it. Like
Yep.
shoot your shot. Like show us what you're made of. So that's the
Right.
entrepreneur in me, right? Like you get it, right? Like there's no perfect time to show up and do the work
Mhm.
and build something great. The time to do it is now. So step into it. Like give it a try. What's the worst that can
Absolutely.
happen? You know?
Absolutely. I always say your first videos are your worst
Oh,
videos, and you're
absolutely.
just going to get better from there.
Hmm.
And really, like what I found, the more raw and like less
People love it.
professional things are, the better.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, you do not have to be professional to do these videos, right?
Agree. Yes.
Yeah. People love the like cheese pulls and the
Yeah.
like gooiness and
I know.
stuff, like
Yeah. Don't
that kind of
overthink it. Have
stuff.
fun.
Yeah,
I love it.
absolutely. What are your fears for the next 5 years of, the influencer economy and the way things are going?
I don't love the AI component of like AI creators. It's mostly
Yeah.
because it's like fundamentally against everything we stand for of like real people, real voices in your own city. I think there's like an efficiency element of it and it's interesting, but if it like turns too much that way, I just think like the insincerity of that like might hurt the creator economy. Um, I think too, like, let's be real. Like, remember celebrity endorsements came out decades ago and like it felt really genuine. But then you're like, oh, okay, like, yeah, they're making millions of dollars with multiple brands. Like,
Yeah.
we're smart as consumers. We know when we're being advertised to. And so
Mhm.
my fear is that, like, it loses its impact and it will. Like, that's just like inevitable.
Yeah.
So, like, remember early days of Facebook ads? Like, dang, you'd put $1 in and get $10 out. And like now it's just very interruptive and noisy. It's just not the same as it once was. So, I mean, it's less of a fear and more of a like, how do we all navigate that and then empower customers and decision makers to make the right decisions within the changing world that creators are in. So, um, but yeah, I think there's so much good that can come out of it that I hope that continues to way past the bad
Yeah.
things that could happen.
You're spot on with AI. I think I saw Gary Vee said like within 5 years, I can't remember. I think he said 90% of everything online is going to be AI, which
Mhm.
I don't know if I totally believe that, but it's not far off before you're
Totally.
not going to be able to tell at all
Yeah.
whether something's AI or not,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. But like, will the FTC like require sharing that? Like,
Yeah.
like is that going to be a requirement to be like, this was AI generated. This had nothing to do with my voice in any way. This is not real. I would hope so. Just like we have to disclose as creators and influencers that this was paid endorsement. Like, I think that will likely be required, but time will tell.
Yeah. Love it. What have I not asked that
Mm,
I should?
great question. I think, talking about creators, I think it's still such a new space, especially for like smaller businesses that are like, how do I navigate this for the first time? And if someone's tuning in is like, you're not in my city, like, how do I like, but I want to try this? Like, my first thought is like, your best advocates, the people who are just like the most excited about you, are your customers. So building your own like little base of your current customers and be like, hey, I'm going to invite you in once a quarter. I'm going to give you an exceptional meal. Would you talk about it? Would you create a video around it? Like find those customers, do the work. It takes time, but invite them in, like get them to be even more excited about you. They'll continue coming back because it's reciprocity. You invest in them, they want to invest in you. It's like a symbiotic relationship. So I'd say go after your customers first and foremost, because that is the most authentic, genuine type of content you can see in the world.
Yeah.
And then I would say, as you're potentially looking on your own, like DIYing it, like, I mean, send the messages. Like, you can shoot your shot, like, put it out there to some people who are like, hey, you seem really creative. You seem like the type of like customer we love to see at our restaurant. I'd love to gift you like, a free meal. And like, would you be willing to talk about it? Like, test it out before you're like,
Mhm.
this is a channel I really want to go all in on. But look for the people who actually have that local voice and that local impact. And if you need help, it sounds like Court's got you. So, like, and,
Well,
and really thinking about that kind of local ecosystem for marketing.
yeah. Well, and so yeah, once a brand is tested out and they're like, okay, we're ready to elevate, how can they get started working with Hummingbirds or the influencer? How can they get started?
Yeah. So if a brand wants to get started, it's best to just book a call with us to see, like, make sure we're in your community. We are growing quickly, so the likelihood would be high as we grow in the next year or two. And that call, meet with our amazing team. And then from a Hummingbird side, you just go to hummingbirds.com. You sign up. It is like easy peasy, and that's it.
Yeah. Super simple. It
Yeah.
was easy for me to do
Okay,
it.
good.
So
Love to hear that.
yep. Very good. Emily, this has been fabulous. Everybody go get involved with influencers if you are not. Just like Emily said, I highly recommend you test it out. I think it'll bring you a much better ROI than those TV and radio ads where maybe your ideal customers are not hanging out. So
cool.
Emily, thank you so much. This has been fabulous. Hope everybody's having a great day.
Thanks, Court. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.